when is the beginning point in which an artist should start thinking about how they're going to release it and put it out into the world?
So yeah, I can hop in there. So the beginning point of how are we going to release this? As soon as you feel like it's ready for commercial product. The big part is just planning your strategy before you ever sign that release up with your distributor. You've got to know what's your release date, what's your single release schedule. If you don't have your artist pages claimed, you're going to want to make sure that you know exactly which stores you're going to need to claim pages on. And you'll want to make sure that you have some content up there before a release or a full album drops. So people can see that you're already established as an artist.
I mean, time is always of the essence. And that's what I always tell people, like, give yourself tons of time. Don't be doing this like a month or yes, a month, but hopefully longer before that. Don't give yourself a week before your release date to start signing your stuff up. But yeah, when you're starting to sort of conceptualize the marketing, I know when I put out an album in May, I started thinking about how I was going to market it all the way back in September of the previous year. Like, how are we going to get those promo photos? How are we going to get those, any sort of relevant content that is needed to market it? Maybe somebody can give me a little bit of advice on, how an artist can start conceptualizing that and when.
Well, one thing I want to jump in with. Sorry, Steve, I didn't
go ahead.
Jump on you there. But I just noticed in the chat there was a question about like the pages you need to claim.
Yes.
And I think that's a good segue into your question, Christina. Is a lot of platforms have create artist pages for you now when you distribute music for the first time or at all, like when you have music out there. So if you go on and search your favorite artist. Let's just say John Legend, because that's one of the artists I work with. You go and you see a picture of John at the top of the page and like a banner and a header, and you see his music organized. Every platform allows you to control that to a different degree. Apple gives you one photo that you can control. Spotify gives you kind of a whole setup and a top picks, and you can put a playlist or a tour date up there. There's all kinds of different ones, but you have to claim them through systems, and then they also give you data back for that. So Spotify for artists and Apple for artists, and Amazon for artists, and now Deezer for artists. They're all these platforms that you can follow stuff. So to kind of you can kind of get an idea of your audience and how people are engaging. So to kind of segue back to Christina's point, having a full visual experience beyond your music, not just having music, just like, hey, a song, having your artist photos, your artwork, thinking about a banner image, thinking about through what the fans experience. Sorry, calling them customers. How dare I? But what the fan experience is going to be as they interact with your music before you release the music is an extremely important part of the world. And it used to be a CD with an album cover, and that was it. And who cares if you have photos? No one's ever going to see you. Now everything's available from your Instagram to your Spotify. It all has to work together. So that's important to get on that early.
I'll just pop in there for a second. I think as soon as you start thinking of recording, when it comes to content creation, we know content is king, right? So artists always say, oh, how do I create content? I don't know what to put out. Instead of thinking of creating content, think of documenting your process. So from the minute you start creating content, document everything, because you don't know. You can literally, from your studio, from your writing sessions, the meetings you're having with your producer, with the label, document everything, because that is going to come in handy when you're actually trying to think of content you actually want to release. So just capture everything. Your phone, this shoots in HD, captures everything. This is your best friend. Utilize for everything that you're doing. And that would make it easier when you actually have to now come up with a content plan pre the release and post the release of whatever project you're actually putting out. And when you think of it from that perspective, you don't get overwhelmed, because now you have a slush of content, images and videos that you can obviously put out and kind of market, because you're always marketing. Because one thing you're doing is you're building a personal brand. So it has to be a continuous process that you're always engaging in. So that's one way you can really start to really get your mindset in the right in the right place when it comes to before you even start promoting, because you're always promoting even when you don't have a single to promote, you know, so being in that frame of mind.
Yeah, I think it's really important to recognize that, you know, obviously you've done all the work in the recording process, you've done all this creative energy in creating the music and, you know, developing it, strategizing, you know, how you're going to produce it. That once you're done, like in the mixing and mastering phase, it's really easy to just be like, well, I'm tapped out, I don't have any creative energy left, but you're not. You have to just shift your mindset and sort of then redistribute that creative energy that you would use as an artist on your actual creative output of the album or the single, and redistribute it into marketing. If you're an artist, you're already a creative person, you can be a marketer. You just have to sort of develop creative strategies for how you'll market it. And I love the idea of documenting things. People love to see behind the scenes. How did this get made? They love to see, you know, your writing process. They love to see you working with that guest guitar player and let's hear their story. Like that's content right there. As much as I hate that word, and I'm going to say this 500 times today, that I hate the word content and I hate the idea of like being beholden to social media. But that being said, these are all wonderful things that you can be developing while you're doing that and then use as content later. Yes, document everything.
To add to that, there's a question in the Q&A of like, you know, where should I invest? It's a very specific question of like, you know, $5,000 for a decently established indie hip hop artist. And honestly, whenever I get asked that question from an independent artist, I always, it's just to back off what Steve is saying, is content. Content is the best place that you could possibly invest first. I mean, there is no guarantees of ROI. I mean, there are some great places you can invest in advertising, but none of them have guarantees of ROI. And the great thing about content is that it's got tons of distribution platforms for it now, especially if you're dealing in a somewhat established artist. I mean, if you're dealing with a new artist, then you have to think about how it's being distributed and how people are going to find it. But thanks to platforms like TikTok, there are ways of doing that as well. But putting a great video on YouTube and TikTok can do more for you than any, you know, social media ads. So content is the first place that I think of investing. And that's basically what Steve's saying, right? Is, you know, be generating content all the time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rebecca.
Oh, I was just going to say, absolutely. I agree with all of that. I work a lot with artists that are just starting out. And what I like to tell folks is like, visualize that TikTok feed, that Instagram page, and you go there, you've got your release out, somebody clicks on your socials and there's 2 posts. That first impression is so important. So having that behind the scenes content is perfect. You've already recorded it, it's ready to post. You can have a full feed by the time your fans are listening to your music. So very much agree. Content creation.
Absolutely. And I know that this might seem like a no-brainer, but if you're using social media as your main tool of promotion, make sure that your social media seems cohesive throughout each one of the platforms that you're using, but also that you're sharing stuff about yourself as an artist. I've seen so many artists that are like, this is my social media for my band or for my artist page, but all I'm seeing is like videos of their dog and videos of food and videos of their girlfriend. And like, I want to see that you're an artist and that this is what you're focusing, you know, this is what you're putting out into the world. So I know that seems like a no-brainer, but I just have to say it because we've all been there where we're like, I don't know what to post. I'm just going to post a selfie. What's the point of that selfie? You know, like let's actually bring it back to the music as much as we can. I'm seeing some really great questions in here about what platforms are best. I'm curious about what your guys' opinions are on that.
Okay, let me dive in that real quick. When it comes to artists right now, obviously a lot of artists or a lot of creatives, they complain how they're not having a lot of organic growth. The places right now that give you the most organic growth: TikTok, LinkedIn, and Clubhouse, literally. TikTok is the only place that you can still go to where you can have 0 followers, put out a piece of content today, and you can literally have 10,000 people follow you tomorrow and your stuff go viral, literally. And if you think about TikTok was actually made for musicians because this is called Musical.ly, literally. And what you're doing is you're actually allowing, or you're enabling your fans and people that might not even know of you to become advocates for your brand or your music one way or the other. And by you being creative, by you doing challenges, doing duets and so on and so forth. And when you see how artists are able to utilize TikTok, again, it's such a tremendous platform in short form video, in allowing you to tap into a certain audience base. So TikTok, and for me, Clubhouse, because Clubhouse, there are a couple of people, I hold a lot of Clubhouse rooms, and a couple of friends that I know have gone onto Clubhouse and played their music on Clubhouse, and they've literally been able to be featured on radio internationally because a DJ heard them talking on Clubhouse that this is my music and I want to connect with A, B, and C. Again, those platforms, and LinkedIn is totally highly underutilized. Only 6% of people on LinkedIn actually create content on that platform. So again, as a creative, people always think of LinkedIn as just a CV job seeking website. But if you're trying to connect with a music publisher, with a production company, where do you think they are? So those are my 3 platforms for artists that, you need to be on Clubhouse. I mean, you need to definitely be on TikTok and the other ones based on your resources and, but yeah.
Jeremy,
I'm gonna yes and Steve, and actually take a step back because there's no better answer than what Steve just gave. But I want to demystify TikTok a little bit because I think a lot of artists are afraid of it and they think of it like
I hate it. I need to know more.
I think that a lot of people think about TikTok as this children's app, this thing that they shouldn't have to deal with. But there's actually multiple different TikToks, really. And the way I like to think about it is there's 2 distinct TikToks and there's 2 ways to engage with it and to participate in it. And it's very important for us to at least understand it and why it matters. What TikTok is really doing is it's taking distribution out of the equation. It's doing the distribution for you. If you make content that is interesting and then one person watches the video all the way through, likes it, comments on it, it's going to say, oh, this person liked it. Now 5 more people like that are going to see it. And then it's going to go from there exponentially. Then 10 more people like those 5 more people. It's going to keep on going. And so what it's doing is it's adding distribution to your content strategy in a way that you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to think about it. All you have to do is keep making content, and eventually if you make the content in a way that works for the platform, it'll distribute, and then you'll, like Steve said, you'll grow an audience overnight, and you can then use that audience and develop it into a fan base. Now, the other side of TikTok is the side that uses your music. You're creating and putting music out there, and you don't have to have anything to do with that. You can have your music blow up on TikTok with an influencer campaign, or not even paying for an influencer campaign. If someone discovers your song and creates a trend around it, obviously it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to predict, but it happens. I mean, I've had this happen on both sides, with a very established artist, Charlie Puth, who I work with. His song Cheating on You that came out 2 years ago got picked up by some model in the Philippines, and she just posted a video of herself with it, and all of a sudden it did like a 4,000% increase in streaming. Wow. Now, Charlie had a little baseline because he's an established artist, but he was doing like 400,000 streams a day in Indonesia and the Philippines. Our developing artist, Frawley, actually did both. She started her own trend. So she created content. She developed the audience on the social network side of TikTok. And then her music also became a trend because of something she uploaded, and kind of made the snowball start rolling down the hill. And now we're getting phone calls from record labels. The song's doing 50, 60,000 streams a day. Yeah. It's, all this stuff is happening. And she is a fully independent artist who we have invested. I mean, you're talking about a $5,000 investment for an artist. I think that's been our total investment in her in the last year, other than the costs to make the music itself. So that's, TikTok does not need to be scary. It's just the first time since, honestly, YouTube in 2012 is the last time that there was a platform that had this level of distribution power that was available. And I think that it's something everybody should be thinking about. And then to bring it back to, found.ee and all these other things, the rest of your world needs to make sense so that when you grow that audience, it's not, happening in isolation.
Yeah, I love that segue into Foundy because you totally read my mind on what I was going to talk about. Like Jeremy and Steve said, they covered it all. I can just corroborate from personal experience. As someone who is pretty new to TikTok as a personal user, I have been amazed at how much content I see where it has 10 views, no comments. And I'm actually getting content from people that I would want to see. I'm discovering new stuff all the time. And then from the artist side, probably about 2 years ago, I was working with an artist, does anime covers, get an email. I just found out that I went viral on TikTok. What do I do? So it's one of those ones where you might not even know that folks are using your song unless you're on the platform. But yeah, and then back to Foundy, with your audience, as you're starting to establish yourselves on these platforms, capturing that audience is extremely important. So let's say you've got your TikTok folks, they're following you, that's awesome. How do you get them to Spotify? How do you get them to Apple Music? And there's definitely ways that you can do that. There's lots of platforms. Of course, I'm biased towards Foundy. You can create landing pages that each person who visits a landing page, you're capturing them as part of your audience so you can reach them again. And you're really just expanding that reach into multiple places.
Yeah, I think that platform is really incredible for that purpose. One thing that I really appreciate about it too is that you can sort of target these as a little bit to also reach separate regions as well, correct?
TikTok ads?
No, I mean the Foundy ads. I'm sorry.
Foundy.
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple different ways to use Foundy. So we have landing pages for capturing that audience, no matter where they're visiting from. The other side is advertising. So it's all built around reaching that audience through ads, and you can reach an audience anywhere in the world. You can target specific locations from as granular as a zip code to as large as a whole country.
Right, which I think is incredible for somebody who's trying to just specifically grow a target audience in some specific region. But I think that's really, really cool. I kind of want to go back a little bit because there's still a little mystification. First of all, thank you everyone for explaining TikTok. I am like truly a boomer when it comes to it. I've been super resistant personally because as an artist, I just don't want to have to think about it. And I think that that's a really great point that you made, that it doesn't need to be challenging. It doesn't need to be that scary. I do see a question in here from somebody who asked, you know, as an older artist or as somebody who feels like this is just completely, you know, what's the point? What they're basically asking is my audience isn't there. So I think it's really important to sort of focus on where is your audience as well. If you know that, you know, you are maybe like in a more folk rock scene, and that folk rock scene is, for whatever, I'm just hypothetically, maybe they're more on Instagram, maybe they're more on this. Do you think it's important to focus on that platform, or do you think it's important to expand onto the others where maybe they aren't and capture from outside? Thoughts?
I jumped in and answered that question. First of all, I want to know, I would love to know the anonymous questioner's definition of older. I'm 38.
I'm 34 and I feel old.
Yeah, I'm putting myself in the almost 40 category. So I learned TikTok in the last year. My advice to everybody, I answered it in the Q&A, but my advice to everybody is, if you're scared of TikTok, and I tell this to our client, Neil Katyal, who's the former Solicitor General of the United States and argues in front of the Supreme Court like every week. We handle non-musicians too.
Yeah.
Spend 10 minutes a day on the platform. Literally 10 minutes a day on the platform for 2 weeks. You will understand it. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what kind of music you play. I'm not trying to sell TikTok. I don't work for TikTok. I used to work for Foundy, and I'm spending more time on TikTok than I am on that platform. But the good news is it's platform agnostic, it's genre agnostic, it's all about just engagement and people engaging with content. If you're scared of it, 10 minutes a day for 2 weeks, you'll at least understand it and be able to be conversant in it. As for the other conversation, back to what Rebecca was saying, what is Foundy? I think full disclosure, I'm a former partner in Foundy. We actually sold the company. I've never met Rebecca. She was hired long after I my portion of it was sold. So hi Rebecca, really good to meet you. Foundy is an integral part. Companies like that are an integral part of you owning your audience. So what that means is there are all kinds of ways people can join your tribe. They can become a part of your data ecosystem. Everything we're talking about, let's ignore TikTok for a second. Let's ignore Instagram. Let's ignore everything. Everything we're talking about, the main reason the music industry has evolved since the era of, sales, CDs, radio driven, publicity driven in like the 90s, when people were actually buying music, is that now you can own an audience. You artist, I don't care if you're a 58-year-old blues guitarist, you can own your own audience. And that's what social media is for. That's what email lists are for. That's what Foundy is for. So you have kind of a hierarchy of what it means to own that audience. At the bottom level, honestly, is social media, because when Instagram went down, you then no longer own that audience. Then above that, you've got email lists. You've got people that you own that you can reach every day. You've got SMS marketing. There's ways to do texting. It's a little harder, but you can do it. What Foundy does is it creates a way for you to gather those email addresses and retargeting data, add pixels to people's computers so you can send them ads with cookies. And basically, instead of just blasting URLs all over the internet saying, go listen to my music, you can shorten those URLs into with the URL shortener. You can put them on a landing page that creates a great experience that people can discover your content. And it's a free tool that allows you to gather that audience in a way that major labels are doing every day with platforms like Linkfire and Smart URL that cost you money. So Foundy is a way for everybody to be able to do that.
Totally. Yeah. And when we think about, I think kind of back to Christina's original question too, like, should I go to where my audience is or should I reach a new audience? That's such an awesome question, because it really gets to the meat of what we think about in music marketing, which is prospecting and remarketing. Prospecting is reaching a new audience. Where do I get new fans in? Where are the people who are interested in music in general? And then remarketing is reaching your existing audience. So, well, you're thinking, nobody I know hangs out on TikTok. They're all on Facebook. That's great. Make sure you're updating that Facebook profile, but don't ignore those other platforms where people are discovering music, because they are extremely powerful tools. And thinking back to Foundy as well, you've got your owned audience. So it's completely yours. You can do with it what you wish. You can reach those folks. You can also reach new fans through prospecting ads. So basically what that means is you're like, I think people who listen to blues in Canada are going to love my music. So I'm going to try to reach that audience. And you can run an ad directly to those, see how it performs. For the people who interact, they're now in your audience and you can reach them whenever you like.
Just to quickly come in there, definitely great points. And again, for me, from a social media perspective, if you think about it, your audience is actually everywhere, because you have different audiences for different things. They're on every single platform, but again, it's you understanding how each platform works, how the content that you create on each platform kind of works. Obviously, now you have Reels that's similar to TikTok. LinkedIn is different from what you put in on Facebook. Pinterest is also there. So you have to understand how each of those platforms works, but your audiences are everywhere. I mean, Facebook has, from now, it's not about 2 billion followers. LinkedIn has how many millions? So if you think that you can even just tap into 10% of that audience alone, or even 1%, and that was a show you are performing to, how much is that for you? But again, it's how much time and how much understanding you have of those platforms. One thing, I mean, I've been telling artists, I know it's a bit of a stretch trying to be everywhere, but with one thing that we've learned when Facebook went down, Instagram went down, WhatsApp went down. What if that was the only platform you were on? Then what happens? That means you've lost all your fans and everyone. That is why you always need to try to find a way to transition your fans off the social platforms and take them off the platform and have either a contact information, an email address, like Jamie was saying, or a telephone number. So you can always engage and continuously nurture those relationships. McDonald's doesn't look at me and you when we went to buy McDonald's at 5 years old as a one-time offer. You look at the lifetime value of that person that's coming into your ecosystem, and you have new audiences that are coming up. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I think there's a couple of songs that have come up that came out in the 90s or came out 2000s that are trending now because they found a new audience. Somebody has used it for a certain trend and all of a sudden it takes off. So it's you understanding and trying to learn as much as you can each of those platforms, and which one are you also comfortable with. But your audiences are everywhere, and TikTok has a very large, matured audience in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s. I think COVID or us being locked down allowed a lot of people to start expressing themselves and being discovered on that platform. There's a guy that I think this is the second most followed TikToker now. The black guy that goes and does this, like literally in a year. He doesn't talk, he doesn't do anything, he just does this. He's grown now, he has 120 million followers, literally in a year, by not saying nothing, not creating anything. That tells you the opportunity that awaits you if you just consistently create content. And once you find a sweet spot, then that's your zone.
Yeah, there's a lot of great questions and we're going to get to them in a minute here. I do want to go back a little bit, sort of stepping away from the actual platforms themselves. I know that as an independent artist, it can be really daunting to think about how am I going to juggle all of this self-promotion on top of just being a creative and all these things. One little piece of advice that I like to give from experience is, again, putting that time up front before your release to really gather as much as you possibly can, all the way down to potential copy you might use in social posts, down to videos you might share. There was a question in here about like, does it need to be organic videos or can it be more like artistically driven videos? Yes, go ahead, get all of that stuff up front. Get video clips for your Spotify Canvas, get all of this stuff ready to go so that by the time that your release comes out, you have plenty of stuff to put out over the next few months. And you don't have to be thinking every day, how do I stay relevant here? How do I post something here? You can even get apps like, there's Buffer, Later, all these apps that you can schedule out posts so that you don't have to be like sitting there and just like scrolling every day and thinking, how do I keep up? Because that can be so overwhelming. And also trying to be genuine, also trying to, tap into your fans and really like be engaging with them. So one question that I have before I go on to some of these questions is, we've talked about how much time you need to put up front to sort of gather all the content and to start strategizing your marketing. At what point, I want to ask you first, Steve, at what point would you say is important to start building the buzz for, say, a single release? Let's say the release date is October 31st. When do you start talking about it?
As far back as you can.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, what I tell most of my clients I consult for, from when you think you have an idea for a song, like involve your audience into it. I mean, a long time ago, there used to be this mystique around you releasing music, but now your audiences, they want to feel like they are part of your team. So what I would normally tell artists is, even if you've decided on your single cover, for example, put up a post and say, listen, you guys, I have a new single that's coming up. This and this. I'm not sure what to put up. What do you guys think? You've already made up your mind. If they choose A or they choose B, even if you put out A, when that single does come out, because your fans are going to feel like they were part of your decision-making process, they are more already invested in you, literally. So take them along. And this comes down to, again, documenting your process. I'm writing a new song. I've started writing this song. What do you guys think? Should I finish the song? You're putting them into the process. When the song is done, like, I'm going to choose a couple of fans and you guys are going to get a chance to share it first. So as far back as you can, but when you start creating, involve your fans throughout that whole process. And obviously you have a plan of the pre-promotion, the on-day release, and post-promotion of the song in itself. So as far back as you can is what I said.
I do think, though, that there's a fine line between talking about, let's say you're starting to write a song 2 years in advance and it's taking you forever and you keep saying, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I mean, at a certain point, people will start to get a little bit tired of like, yeah, well, when is it coming, right? Like, there is a little bit of like, make sure that this is actually in the works, actually is developed, actually something you're going to release, because I definitely am guilty of talking about things way too soon or like way too far in advance. And then by the time it comes out, I'm like, I'm so tired about talking about this theme.
I also don't know. I also think that's one of the great things about the internet is it has a very short memory.
Yeah.
So you can kind of do that and just have fun and just not be too precious about it.
Totally.
And be able to work that out. And I think it all just comes back to like content and just making content for that relates back to what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually literally happened to me yesterday. I was going to start my own store. I'm a visual artist. And I was like, all right, I've got this. I'm going to do it. And then yesterday I was like, you know what? It's been 6 months. I have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, like, posted on my Instagram, hey, I'm probably not going to get this out right now, but here, enjoy this piece of art that I made. So, don't take it too seriously. I think sometimes like recognize when, hey, I might have let somebody down with this thing not coming out, but here's another way for you to participate with me.
I think once you have that release date though, it is important to sort of set a different tone. So like there's that sort of, you're in the strategy and collaboration part of this release, like maybe let's just, for the sake of it, call it a single. Your audience is with you in the whole like process of creating this thing, but now it's signed up for distribution. It has a release date of a month from now. It's time to hit the ground running with really promoting this. So at that point, when you're sort of like shifting gears and you're going from like you're in the ride with me to no, this is coming, like we need to actually prep up, pre-save, do all these things you're supposed to do. How do we sort of like switch the tone there? I think a lot of it comes from sort of like making sure that you have that content ready to go so that it sort of sets a different tone, rather than just being like, here's me in the studio. Like maybe at this point you start sharing those predetermined ads or something,
Totally. Yeah. Once you're ready, once you've got your content out, then getting stuff ready. I actually, just to use the example of the Squid Game as a funnel marketing. So for those of you that haven't heard the term funnel before, something we use as marketers to talk about the fan journey. So what happens when someone hears about you to the point where they're starting to tell all their friends about you.
Yeah.
So in your marketing, like think about what's the call to action? Like, what do you want people to do? Let's say you're walking down the street, you see a billboard for the Squid Game. What if it didn't tell you where to stream it? You're like, okay, this is great, but how do I find this TV show? So making sure like, okay, this is where my content is going to be. This is where you can find me, just making sure that you're directing people to the right places.
Yeah.
And the advice that Steve gave about involving your fans, making them feel part of the process, that's what's going to get people talking about you, which is so important to reach new people organically. You can run prospecting ads and reach new people, but we all listen to our friends' advice above what we see online. If someone's
again, cohesiveness across everywhere, right. Whether it's a YouTube page, whether it's your Spotify profile, whether it's your Bandcamp or your SoundCloud or whatever, make sure that all of those links are updated. All of those things are sending people to the right place, your website, all of these things, just be as pro as possible. Just take that time to spend an entire day and just be like, am I perfect on the internet? Is all my stuff updated?
Have a checklist.
Have a checklist.
Yep.
Have other people look at it. Make sure that those profile photos and those header images and absolutely every single thing is up to date. I'm going to go ahead and pop into some of these questions. Oh, Jeremy, you look like you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, just off what you're saying, Christina, is, so I teach a class at USC in Los Angeles, the University of Southern California. And one of the things I have my students do is always like look over some of even my artists things and like find the low-hanging fruit of what's wrong. Yeah. Even the biggest artists in the world have links that don't work, don't update their profile image and all that stuff.
Talking about John.
Yeah, we're pretty good with John now. Yeah, it has happened before. It has happened before where like, yeah, so even the pros don't always have their links in order.
For sure. So, yeah. Audit yourself.
Yes,
and have other people audit you. And if you have a friend of yours that's like way more tech savvy than you, have them audit you. And I mean, I had an artist today that put out an album and I was helping them with their PR. And I, last night at 9 p.m. set the alarm so I could go see their single come out, and the first thing I notice is the image on Spotify is like cut off. They didn't update their bio, and I'm sending them messages at 9 p.m. like, update this now. So you gotta get that stuff done. We're gonna jump into some of these questions because they're really good ones. We answered the question about realistic versus artistic video. I say do it all. Thoughts on Reverbnation and sonic bids? I don't really have any thoughts on it. Does anybody here?
I was reading through those. First of all, on the artistic video through the realistic, I was actually literally just talking about this with like Lindsay Sterling yesterday, who is a very artistic video creator, and she's doing really, really well on TikTok. But it's taken her a long time to get used to the idea that she has to do like raw, unedited video, because ever since her first video in 2012, it's been, produced music videos. Fully. So it's actually was a lot of work for her to get to there, but now she's doing really well with it. But I still think YouTube appreciates an artistic video. It's really just TikTok and maybe Instagram Reels, but like YouTube Shorts, YouTube, all good to do like things that are more artistic. On the platform side, I think there's a more general advice, just to switch gears to the Reverbnation sonic bids. I don't use them anymore. When I was in an indie rock band in, the early 2000s, when like Reverbnation first started, I was on there. Any platform where you can connect is good. I'm a little wary of sonic bids because I'm wary of any place that you have to pay don't have to, a lot of them are free, but you have to pay to get selected to play something. That feels a little weird to me. I mean, I know a lot of them are free. If you find yourself getting gigs on there, great. Any way to get in front of people as an independent artist is a great thing to do. Bandcamp is a great community of niche genre networks. A lot of blues musicians on here. I'm sure there are at least a few like drone metal, like indie metal, psych rock artists or something, electronic. All of those genres exist on Bandcamp, and it is a great, easy place for you to connect with other musicians in that space. People are asking, how do you maximize it? I don't use it because I'm not really working in those niche genres, so I'm not the best person to speak to it. So if somebody else wants to speak to that, that's fine. But I've met with them really quickly, and they do love supporting community. So I will just say that, one element. So networking with other artists. But Christina, it sounds like you have some experience.
Oh, I mean, I think their platform is incredible. I mean, obviously I'm coming from CD Baby world, but at the same time, like I think Bandcamp fills a different niche, which is that as an artist, you can say the baseline of what you think your music is worth, and then other people can donate, and it sort of creates this place for your fans to show your value a little more. So I really appreciate Bandcamp as a tool. Also, those Bandcamp Fridays are amazing. They're really great opportunities to bring people back. I think one of the things that we forget once we've put it out, once we've done all this promotion and all the digital marketing leading up, is how much work that we need to do afterwards to keep bringing people back. We're coming out of this era where we did shows, and shows were our post production promotion, but now, right now in particular, we're sort of holding back on that. So Bandcamp is a great way to reach people and to sort of bring people back. I think it's a wonderful tool.
And I believe they also I'm not totally well versed, but I do believe they have like following tools and community tools where like things work together. So like if you're into a genre, a lot of fans will go follow multiple artists in that genre. Right. So it's a good place to be, especially if you're in one of those kind of more niche genres.
Yeah, and then there's two separate places here where people are asking questions. So I'm sort of jumping between two, and hopefully I don't miss any. One person asks, I have material on CD Baby. Is it worth any more to release a CD along with digital music due to falling CD sales? As an independent artist, I think having some form of physical media to sell is really important. But that's also my personal analog mindset. I made vinyl for my release because I think having a piece of physical content means a lot to a fan. But I'm curious how other people feel about that.
Yeah, I can speak to that as I live with a CD collector with thousands of CDs. But it is a really big thing, and especially talking about niche genres with Bandcamp and things like that, having that physical merch, think of it as a piece of art instead of a way to consume your music.
Right.
great
I love
design. Yeah, is awesome. And it can really boost your sales with fans. Just having something like that. Yeah.
Calling it a piece of art rather than, using it as merch, rather than thinking this is how I'm going to like promote myself, at least in the current landscape that we're in, where we are in a digital world currently, is a great way of looking at it. Steve, you look like you're gonna say something.
Yeah, and also that can also help you find out who your super fans are. Again,
exactly.
You can use a CD as kind of like an added value of some sort. You can say, listen, if you buy my t-shirt for $12, I'll give you a CD, because it costs you nothing to do this. So always think of it from an added value perspective, and you never know, that could be worth something in the next couple of years. But obviously, when it comes to obviously marketing as marketeers, you go to where is the maximum amount of attention and awareness. That's where you always go to. So, I mean, it won't make sense you're making 10,000 CDs if you know you're not shooting 10,000 CDs. Or if you're doing some kind of promotion, every time you do a show, you're signing your CDs and you're saying, listen, I'm only making 100 of these or 50 of these for my special fans. That is added value that people can always take away with them. And it's more revenue coming back into your pocket and you get a chance to keep it.
Well, and since this is digital marketing, I'll move on from that. But I think that's a really great question and a really great point. So thank you for asking that. I'm already really single right now, but haven't done any of the work leading up to it. What's a good time frame to set out so I can do the work to pitch? Great question. If you're done with the single, let's really start thinking about how much time you can put up front. I personally think anywhere from 2 months in advance to really start setting a release date, making sure that everything is ready to go, that release date is going to be met, so that you can pitch to Spotify for Artists, so that you can start promoting it to, publications if you're doing self-press. I think at least 2 months is good, maybe 1 month if you're going to cut it short. Curious on other people's perspectives.
Yeah, I'll quickly jump in there. Again, most PR people, for you to get real good press, they will tell you, listen, we need 6 to 8 weeks. Even though Spotify tells you we need 7 days for you to be able to submit your music. But think about it, people are actually they actually have a team that go through what music and try and place you. So the more time you give them to actually have a chance to listen and try and place it, the better opportunities you actually have for placement, So you don't obviously, you can in certain circumstances and be lucky, but the more time you give in regards to promotion, planning out your plan, I would normally tell artists, give yourself a 6 to 8 week plan. So now, like, your intention in regards to what content are you putting out? How are you driving traffic? When are you going to say, this is the cover of my CD? When are you going to now do some kind of like a listening session of a track? And, when are you going to put out the pre-save and so on and so forth? Because everything starts to gather mass going up to the release date and also post the release. So as much time as you can give it, 6 to 8 weeks, but if you want to rush it and say within a month, that can also work. But just know at times you might be limited in the opportunities that might come to you. So, what do you guys have to say?
Very much agreed.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Sorry, Jeremy. Yes, 6 to 8 weeks. And think about 6 to 8 weeks from the time it is delivered to stores.
Right.
Because, and then you're going to need to give it some distribution lead time. So a few weeks before that, maybe a little more. A lot of places, let's say Spotify, you're not going to be able to pitch your single until it is in their system. So yeah, as much time as you can possibly give it.
And set up that pre-save campaign and set up all of these other things that can bring people back. Sorry, Jeremy, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to add to, and the thing that's important, and Steve alluded to this, but I just want to be very explicit about it, is just because we're talking about 6 to 8 weeks of lead time from delivery to live on platform, that doesn't mean that people shouldn't be able to hear the song. You definitely want to spend time. Do not be precious with it. I think that's something that's really, really hard for artists. They believe that their baby must be heard in entirety, and it's but really think through the parts of the song people might want to hear that entice them. Have 15, 30-second teasers out. If you are going to use TikTok, be on TikTok, uploading performances of it, you singing it if it's that kind of song that you can. If it's electronic or instrumental, then uploading pieces of it with some visualizer content, giving people a chance to interact with it. That's really what's going to drive. A lot of people, we're using the term pre-save like everybody knows what it is.
Good point.
But
Thanks.
many platforms have different abilities to add content to a user's library when it's not out. So
Right.
Spotify, it's not an official feature. You need a platform like found.ee, in which it's in the pages feature. Some people were asking about that. You need a platform like found.ee or Linkfire, which you would have to pay for, to create a pre-save, because it's not a real feature on Spotify. Other people have programmed it. It is a real feature on Apple, and you can get a pre-save button, and it's officially an Apple feature. I don't know what other platforms have pre-saves. I think Deezer might. But anyway, you can offer people the ability to put your song in their library before it's in the marketplace, but they're only going to do that if they can hear it. We just had a great success. The artist I was talking about earlier, DistroKid has it built into their platform. You can they generate it for you. So this artist Frawley I was just talking about, that's how we've been growing her. We had singles released over time. We invested in a little bit of advertising each time to grow her overall audience on Spotify. A great ad place to purchase ads, rise.la. It's a really great company that we've been working with to develop ads and that focus on Instagram and Spotify growth. We grew her audience over time so that every release, the algorithm was just slightly more friendly to her on Spotify. And then finally, we put, she had a song that took off on TikTok, and she had a song with 20,000 pre-saves. Because of TikTok, because of the investments we had been making in social media. And again, she's totally independent artist. This is something that, literally anybody can do. She is a 21-year-old pop singer. So if you're going to take that same success and move it into, blues or indie rock or a different genre, it's going to perform differently. But that has happened over time. And again, now we're seeing the success. So
Awesome.
That's a year of development, though.
It sure is. Yeah,
totally.
And 4 singles. Yeah.
Yeah, and to add to that, speaking of pre-saves and pre-ads, Apple does have pre-ad charts now. So that is another way to get attention, is to really push pre-ads and with potentially the opportunity to chart. And
if you use that editorial tool in Spotify, it's also very likely that you'll end up on your pre-existing fans release radar page, and sometimes they'll even make you the image of that page. So that's really exciting. Someone takes a picture of it, sends it to you, you post it, free content. Fun day.
Also cut in there. What some people have actually done, I'm sure Jamie and Rebecca, what they've done is, even before the song comes out, they've actually got the song trending already before it comes out, where they're sending clip of the song. And based on that, people are like, oh, so should I release this song? Because that means, because there's already a demand for it, when they release it, automatically they're going to get that traffic. So you can actually put out a clip of the same song. It can be a certain line that maybe, you can turn into some kind of a challenge. And once you have it gathering mass, then boom, you hit, then you go ahead and release, and automatically you're going to get the ripple effect when it actually comes out. So you can actually put out a song on TikTok before the song is even officially released.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point. We've got a few more questions here, and some of them seem like really, really big questions. So I don't know that we'll be able to answer them fully. Like, they're really like big thinkers, but let's go ahead to this. Don't have a following on social media. How do you start from 0 followers? Is there a good philosophy to have? My personal philosophy is start with the network you already have. Chances are you don't know 0 people. Chances are you know at least 5 people. Build from there. Find those 5 people, ask them, hey, do you know anyone that might like my music? And really start building from there. Or, chances are you know more than 5 people. So I guess stock your network.
Yes.
And I think I'll say 3 things. Number 1, consistency over perfection. Like, you got to be consistent. As an artist, as you know, Spotify tells you, the more music you put out, the better you're going to, obviously we're going to, hopefully put you on, it's going to favor you. So consistency.
True.
Again, you don't have to post every single day, but get into some kind of pattern. Like a Monday, do your motivation Monday. What song motivates you on a Monday? Do your fan appreciation Tuesday. Do your throwback Thursday. What made you get back into music? On a Sunday, just do, I'm going to go live with my fans. That's it. 4 posts every single week. And just keep on doing that. You're going to start to discover who are your fans, what time do they kind of come on. Then don't forget your hashtags, because what hashtags do, and I see a lot of artists do this, they don't use hashtags at all when they put out music. Your hashtags actually help you categorize what kind of posts that you have and who the algorithm and who those platforms should show your post to. Again, I work within the Afrobeat space. If you're an Afrobeat artist or you're a Nigerian artist or an African artist, you want to be able to utilize that, because if I'm a promoter or a DJ, I'm looking for an Afrobeat artist to come onto a show, I'm going to type in Afrobeat artist in London. Are you going to pop up or not? And also your bio, optimize your bio. A lot of artists just put in musician, but what kind of musician are you? Are you a rock star?
Right.
Are you a dancer? Are you a hip hop star? Are you a DJ? Like those little things, they do really matter, because you cannot be like everyone. Differentiate and find your niche and make sure you optimize those different things, and you hopefully you start to see traction.
Yeah, to go off of what Christina said too, to utilize your networks. As I mentioned, I had started my own visual art Instagram page. I just posted on my regular Instagram, hey, can you follow me? Like, I would really appreciate it. To all my existing fans, or my existing friends, and
your fans.
And fans. And then eventually a bunch of people started following my page, and I started to get other people who I didn't even know following, because I was starting to get that pickup from people I already knew. So not only are you going to get followers who are from your existing network, but you're going to get new people in just by having people follow you.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and ask, this is not really, there's two questions here, but I feel like they can both be answered in the same time. Ryan Darling is asking, at what point should an artist look for management to help them with the moving parts? How do you find great management? And Yasmina's asking the same question about PR. I know that you just answered that.
I just jumped in on that. Sorry about that.
No, that's great. The reason why I think these are similar questions is because what you're asking is, at what point do I grow my team? And I think that personally, I think that you don't start growing that team until you're making that money back. So please don't, spend a ton of money on something if you're not bringing it in. Think about it like you're growing a business, right? Like you don't want to be so in the red because you're paying all these employees, but you're not bringing anything in. So I think at a certain point, if you're just starting out, or if you're at, the very beginning stages of your career, it's not necessarily the wisest decision to just throw money at your career. At that point, you can do your own PR, and there's a lot of resources out there. DIY Public Relations Inc. has a workshop that I've taken, and it's amazing, and it's very inexpensive to learn how to do that on your own. Management is a whole other thing. It's a whole other ballpark. But I think you will know when it's time to bring someone on. You will feel it.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
Can I comment on the management side? I work for a management company. I've been management about half my career. So first of all, everybody on this Zoom, every single person here, there's 152 people in the Zoom. You all need to own a copy of Don Passman's Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business. You need to read it cover to cover. If you don't, then I don't know what to tell you about you're probably not just taking your career that seriously. You've got to do it.
I have it right here next to me too.
Yeah, I'll put it, Don Passman, Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business. I'm not paid to say that. I've met Don, and I'm friends with his son, but like I don't know him at all. Really must read that book. So anyway, continuing from that, his advice in that book, and I've read it a few times, but it's been a while since, so I can't quote it, is you don't need a manager until you can't possibly do all the work yourself. You should try your best to do everything yourself. When you are feeling overwhelmed and you can no longer handle it at all, that's about when you can have a manager. And you really need to be giving it your all before you can get there, because a manager is also a business. We're going to want 10 to 25%, depending on the manager. Never pay more than that. But we're going to want 10 to 25%, depending on the manager, where you are in your career, and you have to be generating enough money for it to be worthwhile. So you have to be generating for yourself enough that it makes sense for a manager to make a business off of 15% of your business, just to average it out. So that's an important thing to remember because a manager is not going to make your career for you. There's no manager knows for sure the things to do. I can tell you what we just did for Frawley that's working now, but if I did that to you, it may not work, because actually we try to do it with Frawley's a 21-year-old pop singer. We try to do the same thing with Spielberg, a 32-year-old quirky indie rock guy, and he's got his own audience, but it's not going the same way.
Right.
And it'll never work that way. So that's just a thing to keep in mind. And to Christina's point, PR is the last thing I would invest in, but it's
I mean, coming from that angle, I agree.
Jump in there. Again, I think, Jamie, you hit it. I mean, I've done management for the last 20 years. Again, the manager wants to have stuff he can manage. Like literally, if I'm coming in and there's nothing for me to manage, what is it that I'm doing? But I also understand, again, being an artist, it is music business for a reason. You're doing music and you're also doing business. I also understand some artists are not built to also handle everything, and they can get overwhelmed. Literally in trying to do the PR, in trying to, set up the plan and trying to, really put all those things in place. You kind of like project managing, really. So, I mean, understand what your skill sets are, but also understand it is work and it is a marathon. It's not a 100-meter dash. So be willing to at least understand the processes involved. And what I do with artists, I always try to take them through, like, listen, have you done your PRO? Have you registered with, your publisher administrator? Have you done your EPK? Like, you really want them to understand, but it is, because we live in an age where everybody wants to be independent. But I also understand there is a place for labels because some people don't want to run a business. I'm an entrepreneur, but my brother isn't. He wants to work for a company. He cannot be bothered to go ahead and be doing accounts or whatever it is. So just understand that there is going to be a charge to it. But like she said, don't start spending money you do not have. As much as you can, put in the time, because if that's all you have, put in the time and understand the business, because a manager needs something to manage. But again, managers should be looking for you. If you're talented and you're putting in the work, then a manager is going to want to go hard for you because they're seeing all the hard work you're doing, and they can only amplify the energy that you're giving. I cannot be more hardworking than you as an artist. It just won't work. So I hope that helps someone.
Well, on that subject, I think we've hit time. This has been an incredible panel. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to each of us individually. We'll drop our contact information in the chat. And thank you so much, Song Trust, for having us. And have a great weekend, everyone.